In the early hours of Monday, January 26, 2026, the political landscape of the United States shifted with the tectonic violence of a magnitude 9 earthquake. What was once considered an impenetrable monolith, the absolute unity between President Donald J. Trump and his hand-picked successor, JD Vance, has officially disintegrated. The fortress has not just been breached, it has been vacated from the inside. In a series of startling admissions broadcast across global networks and verified by 4 a.m. situation reports, JD Vance has effectively thrown the president under the bus, admitting to systemic mistakes and chaos within the administration's flagship ICE operations. This is not a minor policy disagreement. It is a Shakespearean betrayal played out on the stage of national security. As the president prepares for a high-stakes journey to Davos, a trip already plagued by symbolic failures, including a minor electrical issue that forced Air Force One to return to Joint Base Andrews, Vance has chosen this moment of isolation to pivot. The vice president's recent statements in Minneapolis, where he acknowledged that immigration enforcement has gotten so out of hand and convulsed the state, mark the first time the inner circle has admitted that the machine is broken. For years, the narrative was one of surgical precision. Today, the vice president himself calls it inevitable chaos. This is the fall of the MAGA fortress, not by a frontal assault from the opposition, but by the strategic desertion of its most vital architect. The metadata of this collapse suggests a calculated distancing, a cold-blooded realization that the current administration's trajectory is no longer sustainable. We are witnessing the Brutus Protocol in real time. The deputy admits the leader's plan is failing to ensure his own survival in the wreckage. The numbers don't lie, and over the last 48 to 72 hours, they have begun to scream. The latest Marist and YouGov polling data, released between January 24 and January 26, 2026, provides a grim forensic audit of a dying regime. According to the Marist poll conducted on January 25th, the president's disapproval rating has surged to a staggering 56%, with a record low net approval of -19. But the true black hole in the data is found among the independents, the very demographic JD Vance was supposed to secure. Among this group, approval has cratered to a mere 20%, while 63% now express active disapproval. This is not just a dip, it is a demographic evacuation. The anatomy of collapse reveals that the administration has lost the Rust Belt's suburban women, where support has plummeted by 12 points since early December. Voters are no longer just unhappy. They are describing the country as worse off by a margin of 49% to 32%, according to the most recent New York Times Siena survey. The technical indicators show that the Trump-Vance brand is toxic to the vital small city suburban quadrant, where approval sits at a measly 36%. When JD Vance admits to chaos in Minneapolis, he is reacting to these internal numbers. He knows that the Insurrection Act rhetoric is scaring off the last remaining moderates. The data indicates a total loss of social capital, the mathematical impossibility of building a winning coalition for 2028. The administration is now operating in a statistical vacuum, where every policy move, from the Greenland acquisition pitch to the Board of Peace in Gaza, is met with 70% opposition. The MAGA monolith is now a minority fragment, isolated by the very data it once ignored. While the headlines focus on the political betrayal, a far more dangerous black swan event is unfolding in the global bond markets. As of January 26, 2026, the U.S. Treasury market is being described by analysts as a ticking time bomb. In a rare and terrifying phenomenon, U.S. Treasury yields are rising while the U.S. dollar weakens simultaneously, a sign that global capital is not just de-risking from the U.S., but actively fleeing it. The federal debt has surged past $38.4 trillion, and the cost of servicing this debt is now cannibalizing the national budget. The bond market, typically the adult in the room of global finance, is signaling a regime change. Investors are demanding higher premiums to hold American debt, no longer viewing it as a safe haven. This is the liquidity apocalypse. As JD Vance admits to administrative chaos, Wall Street is pricing in the end of American stability. The ripple effect is moving through the insurance and credit markets. Mortgage rates are spiking, not because of the Fed, but because of a political risk premium that has reached 20-year highs. Foreign ownership of U.S. bonds is stagnating, with European and Asian central banks diversifying away from the dollar at a record pace. The global insurance market is beginning to unbundle U.S.-linked assets, fearing that the administration's threat to invoke the Insurrection Act will lead to a total suspension of the rule of law. This is the ultimate black swan. The moment the world's reserve currency becomes a liability. Your wallet, your 401k, and the global credit system are all tied to a bond market that is currently in a state of controlled demolition. Imagine a leader who within 72 hours has been publicly corrected by his vice president, abandoned by the bond market, and rejected by every major pollster. This is the psychological reality of Donald Trump as of January 26, 2026. Reports from within the inner circle describe a bunker mentality that has taken hold. The president is said to be fuming at Mar-a-Lago and aboard a malfunctioning Air Force One, viewing Vance's Minneapolis peace mission as a direct act of insubordination. Trump's own recent admission that ICE makes mistakes sometimes and can be too rough was an attempt to reclaim the narrative, but it only served to validate the chaos label Vance later applied. The psychological disintegration of power is evident in the president's Truth Social posts, where he now threatens to add pollsters to his defamation lawsuits and lashes out at corrupt politicians in Minnesota. He is a leader in total isolation, surrounded by a dwindling group of loyalists like Stephen Miller, while his vice president holds closed-door roundtables with business leaders to lower the temperature. This is the classic Shakespearean third act. The aging king realizes the prince is already measuring the crown. The president's obsession with Greenland and the Board of Peace are being interpreted by psychiatric profiles in the intel community as compensatory fantasies, grand designs meant to mask a total loss of domestic control. He is no longer leading a movement. He is presiding over a fracture. The most dangerous enemy is the one who stands right behind you. JD Vance's visit to Minneapolis on January 22nd, 23rd was not a routine campaign stop. It was a decoupling ceremony. By acknowledging the frustration and chaos of the ICE operations, Vance has signaled to the billionaire donor class, the Teals, the Musks, and the Wall Street Titans, that he is the reasonable alternative to the president's erratic impulses. The betrayal of elites is now official. Sources indicate that Vance's private meetings with the Minnesota Chamber of Commerce were focused on stability and law and order, without the theatrics of the Insurrection Act. He is effectively running a shadow presidency, positioning himself as the man who can clean up the mistakes Trump just admitted to making. The internal enemy isn't the deep state anymore. It's the vice presidency. Vance is now using the language of cooperation and lowering the temperature to contrast himself with Trump's burn it all down rhetoric. This is a cold, calculated play for the 2028 donor bloc. While Trump deals with electrical issues and Greenland snubs, Vance is on the ground, building a new coalition that excludes the very man who gave him the job. The internal enemy has realized that the MAGA brand is a sinking ship, and he has just launched the only available lifeboat, marked with his own name. As we close this emergency broadcast, we must confront the final accord, the realization that we are at the end of an era. The chaos admitted by Vance and the mistakes admitted by Trump are not bugs in the system. They are the system. Technical analysis of the current political trajectory shows a geometric progression of failure. You cannot deport millions of people, maintain a $39 trillion debt, and retain the suburban vote simultaneously. It is a mathematical impossibility. The technical postscript is this: the GOP has reached its event horizon. The bond market's rejection of U.S. debt means the administration can no longer spend its way out of unpopularity. The demographic shift among independents means they can no longer vote their way out of the minority. The internal betrayal by JD Vance means they can no longer govern their way out of the chaos. We are watching the expiration of a political movement that has outlived its own utility. The fortress has fallen because the people inside no longer believe in the walls. This isn't just a bad week for the president. It is the permanent dismantling of the 2016-2026 political paradigm. The math is done. The accounts are closed. The era of MAGA as a unified governing force officially ended on January 26, 2026. Good night, and may whatever comes next have more mercy on the bond market than the current occupants of the White House.